From a foreigner's brother's wall. Today was the last day of the 2-month vacation and also the last breakfast with the children. If I cross the threshold of the house, then I will return after 2 years. Thinking about this, the taste of potato pratha even today seemed like the dry cabs of Saudi Arabia. Like every day, everyone's face was not open but withered. There was no activity in the house today. Everyone was sad except for the little boy who was playing with the balloon in his hand. Who does not yet know what is Hajj? What is foreign? What is the grief of being separated from one's family? Unfamiliar with all these things, he was holding my balloon in his hand and insisting that I should also sit on the plane. I will go with you. I regretted his innocent questions, sat on the table mourning his compulsions, entertaining him with breadcrumbs, entangling him in toys, pleasing him with a few rupees lying in my pocket, in the last days of the holiday in my pocket. There are only a few rupees, but today he was just as stubborn as my compulsion to take me to Saudi. I was thinking in my heart, I wish I could take it with me. I wish I could not only stay with the children, but also the fulfillment of every wish and the interpretation of every dream. Where is the room for emotion between the destiny and the responsibilities attached to me? And just as the last morsel was left on the breakfast plate, the car came out to pick me up, honking its horn. The sound of the car was so loud and the horn was such a horror of migration that the last bite could not go down the throat. Abu, when will you come again? This question of his touched my heart. If my restraint had been broken, tears would have flowed from the eyes of my mother, sister and wife who were standing nearby. Just went out saying that soon. It was a white lie that came out of my mouth to keep my daughter happy, which only my heart knew. Mom would not cry in front of me, but after I left she would cry, saying that every time my son goes back to Saudi, saying that this is the last journey, but on every journey he needs to open his mouth, spread his arms, he is forced to return to the same sad journey. Saudi Arabia's earnings ended the hardships of the house. Then the roof slab was left. If the roof was on the head, then the marriage of the young sister was left. If the sister settled in the house, then the education of the brother was left. When the brother was on his feet, his father's treatment was still pending. After fulfilling his old responsibilities, he got a little respite. Then he put his hand on his mother's head and swore that this would be his last journey. When he returned 2 years later, he swore an oath of allegiance to a new responsibility as he was growing up. The mother and daughter were growing up. He came back with medicine. Instead of pickles, only syrup was taken, saying that mother sugar, blood pressure is so high that now medicine is needed instead of sweets. Despite my son's 30 years of struggle, the need for this house could not be met, nor the longing for my son's last journey. That's why I knew that mothers would cry as usual. Children would be sad, remembering all the things of village, house, wife, children, mother, father. He did not know when he reached the airport. Unbeknownst to me, after arriving at the airport and putting the luggage in the luggage, I stood in front of the customs officer with my passport, and he looked at me through his glasses and sealed the passport as hard as a judge gave a long hearing. After sentencing, he broke his pen, and after this final stage and decision, all avenues of return have been closed. Like a convicted criminal, he sat in the waiting lounge with his passport in his hands. The sitting voice proved that migration, the wound of time, is such that even if it heals, it leaves its mark. And then the plane took off. Because migration is always a matter of existence. Hearts and relationships never migrate, they remain attached to their own land. On the contrary, after migration, the love of mother, father, wife, children, home, village, country becomes even deeper, and it becomes so deep that even the street stone that has ever been hurt seems dear. Upon arrival in Saudi Arabia, all the color of the eyes, all the scenery, all the greenery turned into a desert like the land of this country. The same life started again which was left, the same rhythm of the Arabs. Speed up, the same Dal and Kabsa became the destiny of 2 years. The whole week would be spent in work, but on Friday, the loneliness of Rome would begin to bite. This evening the heart of the children was so disturbed that I went out of Rome and sat on the beach so that I might get lost in the waves of the sea and lighten some grief. The evening had passed, sitting on the sand by the sea in this gloomy evening, watching the waves crash head on the shore. That she, like me, is mourning the grief of loneliness and mourning Hajj. They too, like a foreign traveler, travel for miles in the sea, fighting against the waves, hitting the shore and mixing their existence in the dust in the same way as a foreigner comes across 7 seas and fights with compulsions and needs and mixes his existence in the dust. The sound of the waves crashing on the shore was like a mother moaning in agony when her innocent son was beaten to death by a saffron mob. I will be able to reduce the grief of loneliness by enjoying the waves that eat his bill. But the gloomy evening here and the scurrying waves added to my grief. I got up from there in panic and came back to Rome. I called my wife and my little son Abu. Abu was crying, saying that while leaving the house he had told a lie to his daughter that he would come soon, and now I am entertaining my son by telling another lie that I have come from the bazaar to get a toy for you. This innocent man, realizing this lie of mine, asked for his tears, and today he has been waiting for his toy for a year. He comes running towards every car parked outside and then comes back disappointed. And he is the father who is not ready to return, tears welling up in his eyes when he thinks of the despairing eyes of the innocent son. This time when he went home, the hot sand and diseases of Saudi Arabia had squeezed him so much that he could not dare to come. The one who does not lose to anyone loses with grief, in view of expensive medicine, rising inflation and heavy household expenses. People according to local tradition also advised me to send my son to Saudi Arabia, but when leaving Saudi Arabia I burned this traditional boat out of fear. There was no question of returning to a foreign country so that this boat would not fall into the hands of my children after me. He got rid of the advice and the idea from his heart and mind. Compromised with illnesses and worries, minimized needs, saved as much as possible, gave priority to his son's education, gave priority to everything, and when he returned home as a medical officer after medical school, my chest became wide with pride. Sacrifices, worries became smaller before the success of the son. If only I had sent my son to Saudi Arabia to get rid of my temporary worries. Today, like me, he would sit on the beach and complain about his compulsion and loneliness. A quiet life would not be his destiny.